everybody. Welcome to our group visit today. Today, we're going to be talking about the elimination diet. I'm excited to talk to you about this today because this is such an integral part of what we do at the MaxWell Clinic. All right, so we're going to talk today about surviving the elimination diet and why in the world we're asking you to do it. Now, most clinicians, let me just say this, if not, I think I can say all clinicians at the MaxWell Clinic have actually done the elimination diet themselves, and a lot of the staff has as well. And so I am speaking from personal experience and from experience of going through it with my patients. Let's see. Sorry, like I said, I'm struggling with some slides today. There we go. So what is the elimination diet? It is not a diet per se where someone is going to put you on this diet and you're going to stay on it forever. It is not a forever diet. It is a very powerful healing tool and also a test. It's not a test of your willpower, although you may think that. It's a test to see what are the foods that you're putting in your body that are potentially causing an issue. And that can be an allergy, that can be a sensitivity, that can be a histamine reaction, that could be problems with complement, leaky gut. There's lots of different things that we're looking at with the elimination diet. And it's an experiment or a test that you are running on yourself. So the better you do it, the better and more accurate results we'll get. And a lot of people have a lot of questions about how to move forward with this. Hippocrates, very wise man from Greece years and years ago, physician, stated that if someone wishes good health, one must first ask oneself if he is ready to do away with the reasons for his illness. Only then is it possible to help him. So we're going to get into the what, why, and how. This is not going to be a step-by-step, what do you do? This is going to be big picture and then how to work around some of the problems that I have seen time after time come up. So what is the elimination diet? Well, it's removing certain common inflammatory foods for a minimum of about 3 weeks and then slowly reintroducing them systematically, which is key. And I'm going to spend a lot of time on that today while you observe your body's response. Now, what are these foods that we have you eliminate? Well, it varies. And if you're doing the full comprehensive elimination diet, those foods include corn, soy, dairy, which includes cheese, wheat, which includes gluten, alcohol, sugar. I'm leaving one off. I don't know. I don't think so. Those are the main ones. Oh, and then we also have you remove beef and pork and caffeine. So that sounds like horrible. It's not horrible, but the first week can be kind of rough, especially when you're used to eating whatever you want. You know, a lot of people come into us and they say, well, I've been doing the Whole30, or I've been gluten-free and dairy-free, and what is this going to do? And you might be surprised at all the things that we learn. Why 3 weeks? Well, 3 weeks as a minimum, and sometimes we ask patients to do it for longer, but 3 weeks is a minimum is because that is how long your IgG antibodies stay in your system. And in response to foods. And so we want the immune system to settle down. And when the IgG settle down, then you get improved, inflammation. Your inflammation goes down. You tend to feel better. And usually this process takes about 3 weeks. In some folks, it can take a little bit longer, and your clinician will help you decide if 3 weeks is the right amount of time. But usually that's the minimum amount of time before we start adding things back. When we add things back, that's the important, very critical time on how to do that. Because a lot of people also come into us and they say, well, I've done the elimination diet before. And then when I ask them, well, how did you do it? And they described to me, well, I took all those things out, and then I went back to the way I was eating, and I didn't notice a difference. That's because that reintroduction phase didn't happen in the systematic way, and that's really key. So we'll get into that a little bit in detail in a little bit later. So why are we doing this? Well, because food is powerful, and it's frequently at the root cause of dis-ease. And it doesn't mean that a certain food is bad, like all gluten is bad, everybody should be off gluten. That's not what we're saying or what we're looking for. We're looking for information from your body when you remove these foods, and then you systematically put it back in a way that your immune system and your body can respond. The other why for doing this is, well, like, some like if you're having joint pain, well, why do I need to change my diet? Well, in my experience, a lot of things have been changed with the elimination diet. And I have a slide about a list of those that I came up with, and I'll show you that in a second. The how. Well, we have many tools available to you, and we have lots of support at the MaxWell Clinic. You have your clinician, you have your advocate, and we have dietitians available for support. And I frequently have, and I don't know what all the other clinicians do, but I frequently have my patients meet with a dietitian at least once in the beginning, because this can be overwhelming and it can be confusing. And that's probably why you're doing this webinar. Okay, so these are examples of things that I have personally seen improved or resolved with the elimination diet alone, not adding supplements, just taking the foods out. Acid reflux, headaches, acne, rashes, fatigue, weight. Now, this is not a weight loss plan, although if you're eating a certain way and you dramatically change it to lots of fruits and vegetables and healthy proteins and good fats, you tend to lose a little bit of weight. Cough, allergies, joint pain, inflammation, constipation. I should have added diarrhea because I've seen that improve as well. Depression, brain fog, and then just mindset around food and paying attention to what you're eating on a regular basis. This is not a comprehensive list, but it is the list that I could just rattle off the top of my head. And so I wanted to share this with you. Now, is there a guarantee that if you have some of these things on the list, if you do this diet, that's the magic silver bullet? No, it's not. But it will give us information on which to move forward with. And I'll give you a unnamed patient clinical example. I had a patient come in with a cough that they had had for 10 years, just a dry cough, had seen pulmonology, had seen an allergist. Nothing really came up. They did have allergies, so it was felt to be maybe an asthma cough, but the inhalers didn't help. A lot of stuff going on. So this person did the elimination diet, and the cough got better. And then when this person added certain foods back in, we were surprised to find that the common inflammatory foods were not really the issue. It turned out that it was beef, which led us down a completely different pathway, because there is a condition called alpha-gal. Actually, I've had two patients for this same thing. And it was discovered through the elimination diet that beef was a trigger for a symptom. And when I hear that, it makes me think, oh, we need to check on an alpha-gal lab test, which tells us whether there is a tick-borne illness that causes people to have allergic reactions when they eat beef. But doing the elimination diet gave us that information to move forward with. This is what you get in your portal. Probably looks familiar to some of you. And I recommend highly that you read the comprehensive guide in full before you try to start. There's also a food list. I'm not going to go over these at this time. Lots and lots of foods on here, except for the ones that I listed. And then this is the reintroduction phase, which you don't have to fill these out, but it does help to take notes. This is more for you, the experimenter, on yourself than actually for your clinician. But I do recommend that you use it. We'll talk about how to reintroduce in a minute. Okay, so as promised, tips for success. And these are really thought out over time as I personally have done the elimination diet and as patients have done the elimination diet. I can tell you that the first week of the elimination diet, taking all those foods out, is really hard. Um, by the second week, you're like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do. I may not be happy about it, but I've got this. And then by the third week, usually people are feeling some better. Not all, but some better. Most patients are feeling better in some way. They've had usually an unexpected result, like, oh, that knee pain I had, which wasn't even what I was complaining about to you, is better when I quit eating potatoes. I did have a patient tell me that once. And potatoes are sort of an optional issue that's a fine detail that the dietitian can go through it with everybody on that. But so as I list here, the mindset, the first tip that I have for being successful is just get in the mindset. This is not a punishment. It's not a limitation. It's not like, oh, you have to change this way for the rest of your life. It's just a mindset of, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to learn some things. I'm going to learn how my body wants me to eat. I'm going to learn what food choices help me feel better and which ones make me feel not as good. And so just being open to trying something new or repeating something that you may have done something like before in the past that didn't really go the way exactly we're telling you to do it, but just having the right mindset. Check your calendar. This is super important. I never tell people to do the elimination diet over the holidays because that's almost impossible. You've got gatherings, you've got family, there's unusual foods that you may not even eat during the year. It's that just holiday, forget it. If you're about to go on a cruise or on vacation, or you know that 12 family members are coming to stay with you and you've got to feed them all, or you're going to be eating out a lot, or there's a wedding or a birthday. There's always something going on in our lives culturally, and our culture really kind of revolves around food. And so checking your calendar and making sure that, okay, this is a time that I can do this and be successful is key. Prepare. Like I said, read the comprehensive guide, look at the food list, start kind of checking out things at the grocery store. Well, if I'm taking out cheese, but I love cheese, what are my substitutes available? Start looking at labels because that's going to give you some other options instead of just feeling like, oh, I've got to take this out and I'm going to feel miserable. Clean out your pantry. So if you're someone that yourself and you're like, okay, well, if corn chips are in my pantry, I'm going to eat them, then you probably need to take those out, or sugary things tend to be a problem. Again, reading labels. I thought I was gluten-free for a couple of years before I was really gluten-free. And I really, in all earnestness, I wasn't having bread or pasta, no pizza, the big gluten-y things that you think about. Soy sauce. Who knew? Soy sauce has gluten. Gluten is in lots of things. And so it really was an eye-opening experience for me to do the elimination diet because I found all the hidden stuff, the hidden sugars that are just not called sugar, high fructose corn syrup. There's a lot of words for sugar on things, and we're taking sugar out. There are things that you can have, such as sugar substitutes. Those are all listed in that comprehensive guide. And those are things that Allison, our dietitian, can go over with you in the specifics of it, but you got to read labels. So if you're not a label reader, then it's time to learn to do that. And we want to support you. We want to teach you how to do these things. We want to teach you how to educate yourself on food. Next is do your research. Well, what does that mean? Well, you already talked about labels and checking things out. Well, people tend to eat out in restaurants, and that's a joyful experience. We want to be able to support that, but eating out on the elimination diet is very challenging. It is not impossible. It can be done, but doing your research, it will allow you to be able to do that. Meaning, if you choose an entree, you think, okay, this is a salad. It's got just chicken on it. It doesn't have cheese. I'm safe. And then they bring the dressing and you pour it over there. And you're like, oh, I don't know what's in the dressing. So doing your research, looking at ingredients, a lot of restaurants will have ingredient lists listed of things. And if they don't know, you can always ask for oil and vinegar. Most all restaurants that are restaurants, not fast food, will have just an oil and vinegar. And if you have a purse, sorry guys, I'm leaving you out on this, you can take some of your favorite dressing from home that you've checked the label on, stick it in your purse and make that work. So doing your research ahead of time will prevent slip-ups. Gathering support is huge. This is where you tell your family, hey, look, I'm doing this. This is going to be what I'm doing for 3 weeks. And you may have to help prepare your own food. I'm not cooking, or maybe I am cooking, but this is what I'm eating and I'm happy to share. I have a lot of husband and wives who, if I see the husband, the wife will do it with them, or vice versa. Some also have a lot of people like, I really want to do this. I am super motivated, but everybody in my house eats differently and they eat junk, or I've got 4 kids to feed. They're not going to eat this way. What do you recommend? Get some support. Do pre-prepare as many meals ahead of time. I usually recommend people just pick a day, could be Sunday, could be Saturday, where you kind of bake a bunch of chicken breast. You go ahead and cook or cut up or slice things for the week, and that is your food for the week. So whatever else comes your way, you're not derailed. But you have to do a little research, like what recipes can I find? And I didn't include this on the other picture, but there are lots of recipes in one of the handouts that you get, and they're actually really good. I've tried a lot of them. And you don't have to worry, are these things I can eat? Because they are. So there is a completely mindless way to do it too, by just following, cooking a bunch of those recipes and eating on those throughout the weeks. Be mindful of your thoughts and words. This is really kind of goes back with the mindset, but instead of asking yourself, oh, what's in this that I can't have, or, feeling restrictive, it's more of a mindset of, saying, what in this kitchen, or what at this grocery store, or what in this restaurant does my body want? What will nourish me, instead of what, because normally if you think about, like today it's lunchtime, and instead of saying, well, what do I want to eat, which is usually the question in all of our heads, is like, what would nourish my body? Changing the words in your head. What can I consume that will nourish my body, instead of, oh, I can't have that. Dr. Woods made me stop eating this food. Make it more of a choice, because it is your choice. And your choice is to try to feel better and get to the bottom of what's going on with your symptoms. Listen to your body. This is really more important in the reintroduction phase, but it also applies early on. If you're struggling, what is your body trying to tell you? If you really are struggling doing this diet, then instead of giving up and then waiting to come in and talk to your provider like a month later, like, yeah, I tried that, I couldn't do it, or I did everything but this one thing. Have conversations early on. You have advocates, you have a dietitian. What is hard for you? Let us know. There can be workarounds, and I don't want to say what the workarounds are right now, because everybody's different, and I don't know who all is on this call. So I'm going to just say, ask for help if you need it. As part of this, we also learn about our relationships with food. That was true for me. I really like carbohydrates. It's really hard for me to not have carbs. Now, I, again, was gluten-free, but that was part of my struggle. I'm not a big sugar person. Love chocolate, but I'm not wouldn't kill me if I didn't ever have it again. But I love, chips and carbs and things like that. Can't do it with this diet. And that was really hard. And that kind of brought that into light for me. And so people with eating disorders or food issues or disordered eating can really struggle with the elimination diet. The thought of limiting food is a trigger for them. That needs to be a conversation. Discuss that with your clinician or with your dietitian, and and let them know this is an issue. Maybe you need to do a modification. We are here for you and we want you to be successful at that. This is not like, can you do it? This is a, let's try this. Let's see what we learn. And then we can move forward with that information. One other word, I think I have another slide, so I'll wait on that, but it was going to be about caffeine. This is a repeat. Again, I mentioned someone having potatoes or taking potatoes out and their knee pain got better. Now you'll notice it's probably too small to see, but some of these things are tagged like, discuss with your provider or, if recommended, and white potatoes is one of those things. Potatoes are a nightshade, and so that can be an issue. And again, you may not find that there's one specific food that is your big trigger, but it's more of a group of foods. And that's where we get a lot of information from. So let's talk really quickly about the reintroduction phase, because this is super important. A lot of people will do 3 weeks doing really good and they made it to the end of the 3 weeks and they're ready to reintroduce their first food. And that's awesome. So you pick, or you and your clinician together pick what you're going to reintroduce on day 1. So day 1 of reintroduction, you choose one food to reintroduce, and you're going to have it 2 or 3 times on that day, just a regular serving size. Why would that be? Well, because you want your immune system to see those food proteins and phytonutrients several times throughout the day. So if your body is going to respond negatively to that, it will have had enough doses of that food to do so. Now, you may not have symptoms the day you ate it. You're like, well, I ate it and I'm fine. What's the big deal? Day 2, you don't have the food again. You do not eat the food that you just ate. So for this example, I'm going to say it's corn. Day 1, you have corn in 3 different ways, and just a regular serving. And then day 2, you don't have corn. Day 3, you still don't have corn. You're going back to the way you were eating before. And then why is this? Well, because the immune system, for true allergies, when people have a true food allergy, they know right away when they eat this said food, they usually have an allergic response immediately. The lips may swell, the throat may swell, they may start coughing, they may get hives, they may have nausea, vomiting. My son has anaphylactic nut allergies, so we are very aware at our house of all the things that can happen if he actually gets a little bit of a nut. It can be very scary. That's not exactly what we're looking for here. We pretty much, you would pretty much know if you had a reaction to a food because it would happen right away. The problem is that food intolerances are very, very hard, or sensitivities. Some people have celiac disease, which is a disease in and of itself to part of the gluten protein, but a lot of other people have wheat intolerances or gluten intolerance that's not celiac. And so that's a whole talk in and of itself, but it can take up to 72 hours for your body to respond to said food. So that's why you wait. Day 2, day 3, you're not having that food again. You had it a lot on day 1, you waited 2 or 3 days. And this is when you're paying close attention to, what are my symptoms? What's happening to my body in this time? And if you get to the day 4 and you're feeling amazing and nothing bad happened, then that's awesome. Then you're going to add that food back in as much as you want, without any, restrictions. Then if you're feeling good, you're going to move on to what would be day 5 or day number 1 for the next reintroduced food. Now, here in the middle, it says, if you have any negative symptoms upon the reintroduction of a food, please remove this food from your diet again and wait until the body resets and the symptoms resolve before introducing a different food item. So say you had the corn and then you were just itchy on day 3 and you're like, oh, the itching is back, or the rash, or whatever, just as an example. Then you're going to wait till that settles. Does the rash have to be 100% gone? No, it doesn't, but you have to feel it settling down before you add in, I don't know, dairy or something else. Because if you're flared up and then you add something else, is it a continuation of that flare or is it a new symptom from a new food? So that's why we kind of want. Now, this reintroduction phase can take a while, and it requires a lot of observation, and that's why some hand holding is frequently needed, and it gets confusing, and so you're not alone with that. So I really wanted to spend extra time on the reintroduction phase, because a lot of people will be very successful for the 3 weeks, and they're like, but then I went to my friend's party and she had made this muffin and I had the muffin and then I didn't feel good, but or maybe I had the muffin and nothing happened, but you can easily get derailed. And so really making that plan is helpful. Okay, curves in the road. Here are the ones that I find to be the most problematic. And I think I need to move this down because I don't know if you can see this, but sugar, because a lot of people have either self-proclaimed or not self-proclaimed sugar addictions. Learning all the different words for sugar is really, really helpful. You are allowed stevia and monk fruit on the elimination diet. So it's not that you're, nothing sweet, but sugar is removed. And so again, reading the labels. Coffee. Coffee is something that is removed. You can have green tea, and but we're really trying to limit things that can be, again, inflammatory. Coffee in and of itself is not the problems. It's usually molds are very commonly growing on coffee beans. You don't see the mold, and I know that sounds gross, but that's the thing. So people that have allergies to mycotoxins and neuroinflammation from mycotoxins can really be affected by that. And so coffee needs to come out for the most part. But if you are a 3 cup a day or even a 2 cup a day coffee drinker, you need to start weaning it down, whether you just switch to decaf or do, less each day, because you'll get headaches if you go cold turkey, and that's not pleasant. And our goal is not for it to be unpleasant. Our goal is to make it smooth as possible. So working on weaning the amount of coffee down, or switching to decaf, or doing half calf, decaf, whatever you can do to kind of come off of that. Insomnia, why is that a problem? Well, I did a lecture or webinar, whatever you want to call it, group visit on sleep. And in that, I talked about how lack of sleep, lack of good, restful, restorative sleep will create problems with food choices. So I know myself, and I know that if I did not sleep well the night before, I am more hungry. I want all the wrong foods. And there's been studies that show that this is absolutely the case across the board. So I'm not unusual in that thing. So if you're not sleeping well, talk to your clinician about it. And maybe work on that before we ask you to do the elimination diet. So everything is individualized. So if sleep is not something that you get on a regular basis that makes you feel restored and restful, then it is affecting your food choices 100%. Stress. Stress will also, same as sleep, will create, well, stress can cause a lack of sleep, but it also can create the wrong food choices because we'll be more likely to crave caffeine, crave sugar, crave carbs. It's a known derailer. Relationships. This can be good or bad. Relationships can be relationships with your spouse, your partner, your kids, your parents. It can be lots of things, because food is kind of part of our culture and community. We all eat food, but we like to eat food together. And I think that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. And shared meals are not always, when you're like, oh, I can't have that, I can't eat that, you're like, you become that person that's hard to, do that. So in these 3 weeks, you just need to tell people, look, I'm doing this. This is important to me. My doctor has recommended I do this, and please support me. And I have had people that, again, have done it with their spouse, and other people who, get a lot of pushback. And so maybe talking through that with somebody at the clinic to see what the best way to handle that is. Disordered eating. I mentioned that before, and I'm going to mention it again here because it is important. People's relationships with food is big, and the elimination diet will bring those to the surface. If you're not aware that you have any weird relationship with food, then it will reveal that. And then what you do with that information is up to you. But it is an important piece because we all have relationships with food. Sometimes, we were raised where food is love, and, our families fed us lots of food. You're upset, here, have these cookies. Oh, somebody broke up with you, eat a thing of ice cream. So it's complicated, and that's one reason why this is a complicated process, but it doesn't have to be. Again, if you're having some of these concerns, please talk to your clinician, talk to us about it, talk to Allison, our dietitian, talk to your advocate. It's important, and you're not alone there. One thing I didn't have room on this slide for is restaurants, but we've already talked about that. So it's a big curve in the road. So plan accordingly and do your research. One more thing about restaurants. We have a list of restaurants that we as MaxWell Care Clinic providers recommend in the area. So if you're like, well, I don't know, where could I even possibly eat? Like my favorite restaurants, Olive Garden or whatever. True Foods, which is in Green Hills. We have a list that's compiled. I'm not sure where that list stays, but we do have it, and it can be provided to you where you can actually follow the elimination diet and hit a restaurant that is not out of the, they're few and far between, but we're getting more of them in Nashville. So that's exciting. And a few in Williamson County, but not many. Urban Market is in Williamson County. But I don't know where my audience lives. So I'm just trying to put several things out there. Anyway, the food that you eat is your fuel, and what you're putting in your tank matters. So, if you want to be a sleek race car with lots of energy and, a great outer coat of paint all shiny, then, you want to eat foods that look more like what's on this slide as opposed to, more processed foods. And I think that our patients that come to MaxWell Clinic are looking for different answers. And a lot of you have already tried these things, but maybe having some more focus to figure out what foods is my body saying I don't want to have, which ones is my body saying, yes, give me more of that. And usually we just don't pay attention. The elimination diet, I didn't say this earlier, is not forever. I have had several patients, one just last week, come in and say, I feel great. I don't have any more reflux. My joints are better. My energy is better. I'm back at the gym. And all we did was the elimination diet. That's it. And I say, I didn't do it. That person did it. And they did it correctly. And that's really kind of the key. I've had other people that come in and said, yeah, I did it. Didn't do anything. But then when I track back, I'm like, well, how did you add the foods back? And it's a little wonky. So sometimes I'll say, well, we need to do it again. So it's not a test of can you do it? It's a test of your body where you're the experimenter, and it's a study of, it's an N of one. You are the experimenter and you are the subject, and your body is going to give you the information that we're looking for. And if it's not a specific food that is an issue, it could lead us in another direction, like, for example, the alpha-gal, or, this other patient who potatoes was an issue. And, I said, well, you know what? It might be nightshades. It might be this other group of food that I didn't really ask you to eliminate all of those. So let's rethink and let's try that. Or maybe it's a histamine response, and we need to look at that. Maybe there's a leaky gut. There's a lot of different information that we get from this, and we're not looking for that one evil food that's making you sick, because food is lovely. Food is awesome, and we want you to all be able to enjoy all of it. And sometimes you need to remove the one food that is sort of found to be a problem for several months until your body settles down. And then you can have it sometimes, and then your body may be able to tolerate it later. No, that's not true for like true anaphylactic reactions. That's a whole different ball game. But it's an important point, because I think it's important for people to understand that. I like this quote, so I put it in. Most people have no idea how good their body is designed to feel. And I really feel like that's true. So I think we have some questions. Let me see what comes up here. I'm going to. Hold on. So, question, does it matter if I buy organic fruits, vegetables, or organic fed meats during this? I think that if you can afford organics, go for it, or buy as many organics that you can afford. Organics can be expensive, but not all of them. The Environmental Working Group has a list of, they're a nonprofit organization, and they have a list that's published that is the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And so looking at that list and choosing to buy organics off of the Dirty Dozen, the Clean 15, like for example, it's great if you want to buy organic bananas. That's better for the environment. But bananas have a thick shell on it. So in tests, they find that bananas don't have as many pesticides as, say, apples, celery, tomatoes, peppers, peaches, strawberries. Those are the ones that are more on the Dirty Dozen list. And so you can find those if you just type Environmental Working Group, you can find, and you can kind of select which ones would be better bang for your buck as far as the organics in fruits and vegetables. As far as grass-fed meats, I'm always a fan of grass-fed meats. There's less toxins in those because of what the cows are fed. Or I say cows, but animals are fed in general. And then I think those are all of the questions. Thank you guys for spending time with me today. And I wish you the very best of luck in your elimination diets. And whether you're doing it for the first time or being asked to do it for a second time or just using it as a reset, it's a really, really powerful tool. And I can say that for myself. I can say that for patients that I've worked with. And I really wish you the best. And if you are struggling, please, please, please reach out and tell somebody. There's a lot of workarounds that can be done, a lot of modifications that can happen if that's necessary. So please, please don't be shy. We are here for you, and we want you to succeed and feel better. Well, thank you very much, and I am going to log out.